So today we're going to look at amides and N-substituted amides. So an amide, in essence, even N-substituted, has a C double bond O directly bonded to a nitrogen. This is called our amide linkage, and you'll come across this even when you look at peptide bonds and how they're formed, because you've ended up forming amides then as well. Within amides we have two types. One is our standard amide, where I have a C double bond O and a nitrogen bonded to it with two sets of hydrogens on either side. The second type of amide link is when I have a C double bond ON, still have a hydrogen, but one of those hydrogens has been substituted with an R group of some form, and that's where we have something called an N-substituted amide, because on the nitrogen there has been a substitution. One of the hydrogens has been substituted with an R group and the rest of our amide. Let's have a quick look at naming these starting ones first. So in essence, when we name an amide, our ending ends in amide, and it links with, and then the starting part is going to be based on the rest of our CO chain. So if I have a CH3, C double bond O, NH2, I have amide. I can now look at how many carbons I have, with this being my carbon 1 priority, 1, 2, it's ethan amide, all as one word. If I had something that looks like this, got an NH2 bonded to a C double bond O, so it's an amide. Carbon 1 as the highest priority, 2, 3, propan amide. We're just going to do one more as a quick example. So I still have a C double bond O and an NH2. So it's still going to end in amide. If I now know that that's my carbon 1, highest priority, 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, I have a propan. Amide is my longest carbon chain, so 1, 2, 3 for example. But then on carbon 2, I also have a methyl group. So what we would do with normal naming convention applies. I have a 2-methyl propanamide. So that's just naming these types of amides. We then have an example of an N-substituted amide. The same principle applies. Well, it's very similar in fact, not the same, but our similar principle applies. Let's say I've got something that looks like this. So when I name it, we look at our N-substituted part, and we look at the fact we have an amide link. So I can write amide at the end because I have a C double bond O and N. But we have to do this slightly differently. When we were naming our amides previously, we looked at our longest carbon chain from our C double bond O to identify propanamide or ethyl amide. I can still do the same thing for this step, for this part directly before it. So 1, 2, I have an ethan amide, one word. But now I have to look at what's bonded to this section, and that forms our N substitution. Done the amide part, now N substituted. So on that N, I've got a methyl group that substitutes out one of the hydrogens. So I have an N methyl space ethan amide. Let's do another one. I can now remove all this. Got a C double bond O, CH2, CH3. I shouldn't have done that actually. CH3, CH2. I've now got something that looks like this. So I've got my amide part, which is 1, 2, 3. So I have propanamide. We know it's N substituted because on the nitrogen I've got an R group that's substituted out the hydrogen. The R group is an ethyl because it's a CH2, CH3. So I have N, ethyl, propanamide. I'm going to do one final one where we increase the level of challenge slightly further. So I've got a C double bond O, N, H. Theoretically, I could probably have substituted both of those, that hydrogen with an R group, which I probably will give to my actual year 13. In fact, I have given to my actual year 13 class to name, but we don't really need it for our spec. It's just developing your own understanding. So let's say I've now got this. Still got an amide. I can name that. Let's look at the part that's bonded to that C double bond O in the amide. 1, 2, 3, 4 as our longest carbon chain. So I'll have a butan amide. But then on carbon 1, 2, 3, I have a methyl group. So I might write 3-methyl butanamide. That's done all of this section. I still now have to look over here at my N substituted. Well, what's been substituted onto it? A CH2, CH2, CH3. That's a propyl. So I have an N, propyl, space, 3-methyl butanamide. So that's naming amides. Just a quick thing to note, they are different to amines. Amines will have at least one of the hydrogens in ammonia substituted with an R group. They will not have a C double bond ON. This amide, this amine. If the nitrogen is not directly bonded to a C double bond O, it is not an amide. And that's all.